Hi guys, this is Mike from Ultimate Black Belt Guitar and Pitch Fever Music Academy. Just here to give you a quick short video on, it's sort of an informal video this time, on the 8 most common mistakes people make when they're trying to tune their guitars. Now, I see these all the time as a teacher, and I even make some of these mistakes myself too. Sometimes I'm in a hurry, or, in any case, I sometimes tune and then I play a couple chords and I know something's not quite right. It's because I committed the same mistakes that I'm going to talk about today. So first of all, the most obvious thing that I see all the time when people come in to either do a studio session or to do a lesson or whatever, or to play a show, is that they don't even know they have to tune. So I'll play a chord, I'll just do like E or something, and they'll play and they'll be like, oh, that's pretty close, And I kind of learned the hard way a long time ago that even if it's close, it can sound bad. So, as you know, like sometimes a note that's way out of tune can sound a little bit better than a note that's very close. Just the vibrations rub together really fast. They usually say the same things like, well, I tuned yesterday, or it was in tune when I left. But a lot of people have gig bags. And even hard shell cases can do this, where you put your guitar in and all of a sudden the knobs get hit and you're out of tune. And the worst thing is when you're about to play a show or whatever and you realize you're out of tune, and if you don't have a tuner in your pedal board or something, that could be kind of freaky. So that's the first thing, is to know that you usually have to tune. If you ever see me in concert, I'll be playing, and in between songs I'll even be tuning, because that can happen whether you're using capos or you're just playing hard, or just the nature of the guitar is to go out of tune. Due to bends and just playing in general. So just make sure you tune more often than you think you have to, just so that you're on the same page with everybody. Okay, and so you sound good, and you can show off your talents without, ruining them by being out of tune. The next thing that I see a lot is that this happens a lot with the tuners that you plug into. Nowadays they have the clip-on tuners that are pretty cool, but still a lot of people use the plug-in tuners. So what they do is they plug it in with like an electric guitar, and they'll play a note and the arrow will be going crazy and they won't be able to find whatever note they're trying to tune to. And 9 times out of 10, it's because they haven't turned up their volume on their electric guitar. So I'm holding an acoustic guitar. It doesn't make sense, but I'll pretend. So I usually say, is your volume up? And that's the first thing, their volume's all the way down. So once they turn it up, suddenly it registers, and that's the end of that problem. So make sure if you have an electric guitar and you're plugging into a tuner, that you make sure your volume's up so that you're sending signal out to the tuner. Okay, the third thing that happens is, let's say you get the tuner all set up, you're tuning, and this actually just happened about 2 weeks ago at a concert. I was watching a bass player tune her bass, and all of a sudden she got done and she played and something sounded just a little weird. So I looked at the tuner that she was tuning to, and it said A445. And so she was actually tuning out of tune, because the tuner was representing a different frequency than she was supposed to be tuning to. Back in the old days, they decided that A440 was going to be the standard. So you'll sometimes see on tuners it'll say A440. And you might be wondering what that is. Just make sure you do that if you're playing with other people. There's an argument about, or discussion or theory about what the best frequency to tune to. And some people say it's A432. But for now, we're going to do A440 because that's the standard. And if you go to play a show or play the studio, that's what you're going to have to do, at least until that changes. I don't know if that's ever going to happen, but so remember, it has to be set to the correct frequency, so A440. If it's not, usually it's easy to figure out how to change it. And to tell you the truth, a lot of tuners don't really give you that option. If it's just a real basic tuner, it'll just say, the names of the strings or the numbers of the strings. So make sure you're tuning to the correct frequency, the correct A440. The fourth thing that can happen is, let's say they have the tuner set correctly, they have everything going, and they hit their string. And I hear this a lot with my students. They'll be tuning it, and all of a sudden they'll tune it way down for some reason. And almost every single time I'll say, well, what are you tuning to? And they'll say E. And I'll say, make sure there's not a little flat symbol next to the E, because what happens is, if it's a chromatic tuner, you'll hit the E. And if you're a little bit flat and you turn it lower, it'll actually just go down to the next note to tune to, which is E flat. And usually what they do is they tune to E flat, and then maybe the other strings go okay, and then they play a chord and it sounds terrible. So that could be a big problem with a lot of people, and they're tuning to the wrong notes. So make sure your tuner says E, A, D, G, B, E. not flat, not sharp or whatever, or especially not any other note. And that happens too quite a bit. So make sure you're tuning to the correct note. The next thing that can happen is that as they're tuning, this happens a lot with both electronic tuners and when you're tuning by ear, which we'll talk about later. And that's they'll do, for example, if you're tuning by ear, they do the 5th fret method. They'll go like that. And what they'll do is they'll try to tune and they'll go, and then they'll kind of reach up and tune. Okay, not quite right. I'll put it out of tune on purpose so you can hear. And they'll turn it again. And it takes forever to do it that way. So what I tell people to do is to make sure your notes ring out. That's how you're going to be able to tell what to do over here. So let's say you're doing this. By the way, if you don't know how to tune using your ear, go ahead and go to our website, and we have a whole lesson on how to do that. That's called the 5th fret method. There's also the harmonic method, and there's a couple other ways to do it. So check us out, ultimateblackbeltguitar.com. Little plug there. What'll happen now, let's say if you're trying to tune and you let it ring out. Well, now it's obvious what you need to do. But the problem is a lot of people take their left hand and they try to turn it, but that kills the original note. So it's smart to hit it, reach over with this hand, and then make the changes. You can hear it in real time. Like that. Back in tune. So remember, let the notes ring out, that way you can hear what happens, and that's really obvious when it comes to the harmonics. You'll hear that when notes are rung out, that they're able to be changed in real time, and you're able to do it correctly because you can actually hear the waveforms come together at a certain point. So very important for that. Okay, that was number 5. The 6th mistake that people seem to make is when they tune, they don't do what I call the under and up method. And that's when you're tuning, it's usually a bad idea if you're sharp on a note. Let's say I'm tuning my A string, and it's like that. It's not a good idea to bring it down to the note necessarily. Check it out. Even though it's close right now, if I play that string quite a bit, I've created some slack over here that's actually going to kind of pull the string a little bit loose, and then it's going to be out of tune again. A good idea is to go underneath the correct pitch and then bring it up to the correct pitch. So for example, I'll use the harmonic method for this. Let's say I'm sharp, for example. What I'll do is I'll purposely go lower than I have to. That way the string gets used to that. Then I'll bring it up to tighten it. Once I hear it even out, then it's in tune and it's tight so that it's less likely to come out of tune as easily. So hopefully that makes sense, to drop underneath the desired pitch and then bring it up in pitch until it's able to be in tune, and then you'll have a lot more success keeping your guitar in tune like that. All right. So that's the 6th thing that I wanted to mention. The 7th thing is after you tune all 6 strings on your tuner or whatever, a lot of people make the mistake of not going back and rechecking again. They think just because they went down the line that everything's good. But if you have a floating bridge, or even just if your guitar was way out of tune, or it even just happens naturally, once you get to the last string that you're tuning, it's a good idea to go back and recheck them again, because what'll happen is you'll go back and most likely it'll be a little bit off from what it was originally. That's just one of those weird quirks about guitar. So you got to go back and then double check it. You can triple check it, but usually that's overkill. 2 is usually the amount that I do, and then you're good to go on that. So make sure once you're done with all 6 of them, you go back, check them again, and then you're assured to be in the correct pitch with everybody else. Okay, and then the final thing, kind of touched on it already. A lot of people, just like with all technology, I'm guilty of this too, you start to rely too much on it. So you forget what it takes to tune by ear, and that can be really embarrassing. This happened to me when I was learning guitar. I'm always learning guitar, but early on when I was learning guitar. And what happened was I went to Guitar Center to play, and I just trying out some pedals, and the guitar was way out of tune, and so I didn't have a tuner there or anything like that. And I spent about 20 minutes trying to tune. It was really embarrassing because back then I wanted to look cool and show people that I could play, Metallica. But the thing is I couldn't even get the guitar in tune to help me sound good in order to play or to even try out those pedals to do it justice. So I had to remind myself that I was relying way too much on my electronics, and that it was a good idea to go back and start to do the 5th fret method again. Or to go back and do my harmonic method, which once again we teach on the website. But it was a good, kind of a good awakening for me, sort of a slap to the face that my ear wasn't as good as I thought it was, and I had to go back and retrain it. So it's really important to be able to pull off, just the organic method of tuning, because eventually you'll find yourself, either your batteries will run out, the electricity will go out, something will happen, or you'll forget your tuner at home, which I've done at shows before, and then you have to rely on good old-fashioned, tuning through the ear. So that's something you want to sharpen no matter what. That even makes you a better musician too. You'll just hear things better. And another thing that'll help with is a lot of people sometimes get confused on what direction to go. Like, do I tighten it? Do I loosen it? What do I do? This is a great way to be able to practice this and to get good. So what I see a lot of people do, let's say if I'll put my last string out of tune here, or technically the first string, and I'm tuning by ear. This happens with a lot of students. They'll have no idea which way to go. So they'll go further away, and by then I'm just sort of like, uh-oh, hopefully you can start to hear that it's really far away. Sometimes they don't, sometimes they catch on. What I like to do is when I hit the note, I kind of imagine a certain level in my mind of where I can picture it mentally. And then I hit the next note, and usually from doing that I can sort of hear the difference. Like the first one was here, the next one was here. Then you at least know you have to tighten it to bring it up. If you can't hear that, you may have a little bit of a pitch problem, or they call it tone deaf. I don't know if I believe in people being completely tone deaf, because if I, sometimes I'll make it really obvious, then they can hear it at least. So it's a good idea to practice the 5th fret method of tuning or the harmonic method, and just sharpen your ear a little bit so at least you know what direction to go when you're trying to tune. So those are 8, actually more like 9 common mistakes that people make when they're tuning their guitars. Hopefully that helps you out. If you want to, visit our website, ultimateblackbeltguitar.com, and we've got tons of lessons on there, and it's growing every day. We'll keep putting videos on YouTube as well, but mostly these short teaser ones that are kind of fun to watch real quick. So I think this was only about 12 minutes long. In our videos on the website, we go much more in depth. So hopefully you enjoyed this lesson. Hopefully it helps you guys out, and we'll see you later.